Are you comfortable?
Sure. I need to talk.
What happened?
What's the matter?
Harry came over last
I went
night.
over to Sally's last night.
Because I was upset that Joe was getting married.
One thing led to another.
And before I knew it, we were kissing,
Make
and
a
then...
long story short,
we did it.
So jazzy.
Yeah, that trailer gave everything away.
Yeah.
I think that
the
might be
entire
the
plot of the movie.
Yeah, I think that might be the most spoiler-filled trailer we've had yet, and we've had a lot.
Yeah, I would say so.
Welcome to Movie Matters, guys. I'm Kevin.
I'm Jake.
And we're talking about the 1989 movie When Harry Met Sally, directed by Rob Reiner, Meg Ryan, Billy Crystal. It is a classic, and we are celebrating the month of February with rom-coms and romance movies. Love is in the air, and it for sure is in the air with this movie. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I hate romantic comedies in general. So this is going to be a little bit of a struggle for me. However, I did not mind this movie. It is pretty funny. Billy Crystal is really funny. And Meg Ryan is funny in her own kind of way in this movie.
Yeah, she's really quirky.
Yeah, and just such a weird and anal person. About very strange things. So it's kind of goofy and funny. I was very surprised at how modern it felt.
It's timeless.
It feels like it could have been made yesterday, which was very surprising to me. I don't know if it's it wouldn't surprise me if this set the tone for all romantic comedies between then and today. Because it's just very, very, like you said, timeless, I think, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, 100%. It's so, I hate to use the word real, but it feels so genuine, and it's just, I don't know, it feels plausible, and it's not, some big giant romantic gesture that I'm doing on a yacht in the middle of the ocean to try and win this girl back. You know what I mean? It's nothing like that. It's just very simple and rooted in realism, and it's just very relatable because of that. And I think the timelessness adds to that relatableness.
This is the most non-80s looking movie I think that we've watched so far.
Okay.
There's very little that actually pinpoints it to being from the 80s. I think the New Year's Eve party at the end is kind of a dead giveaway because everybody's dressed and their hair's all 80s and they're wearing very 80s clothes. But other than that, it's not too far off from how people act and what people wear today. So maybe that's also another reason, is that it's just very neutral, I guess, in its presentation and stuff. I don't know how to describe it. It's just not as anchored in the 80s as some of the other movies that we've watched, I feel like.
I see your point for sure. I do like that they have the time jumps in the movie, and they have very kind of period correct hairstyles, and that's kind of how you tell them apart. Which,
right.
There's a lot of different time jumps in this movie, and I like that they do that. And it's different. This movie just feels different than a lot of romantic comedies, and we'll get into more of them obviously as we get through this month, the month of love. And, I love this movie. I've seen this movie. This is probably my fourth viewing, and I still love it, still laugh at it, still enjoy it. And the first time I ever watched this was not too long ago. I saw it maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I think. So it's a newer watch for me, but I've watched it a good amount of times since because it's super good. I mean, this movie is very well known in the zeitgeist of romantic comedies and film. This movie in 2022 was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress because they deemed it culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, which kind of lends to the point you're getting at, where it's like it's just so like so timeless. It literally is, and it's so relatable.
Well, and like it's also plot wise interesting. And I'll explain what I mean. Because like my wife, first of all, she absolutely loves this movie. When I told her we were watching it, she like went ballistic. She was so excited. So, you know, she's a big fan of romantic comedies. She loves the Hallmark crap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not a fan.
Which, if anybody's not familiar, more power to you. Stay away from it as long as you can. But like they're all basically this like formulaic bullshit that is which really every romantic comedy nearly every romantic comedy follows this formula where boy and a girl meet, they don't like each other. They slowly start to like each other, and then right when they're about to get together, there's some sort of misunderstanding. They go their separate ways, somehow reunite, and then they fall in love, and the end of the movie.
Yeah.
This, however, When Harry Met Sally does not quite follow that mold. It sort of does, but it's very loose with it. And like, because they end up getting together, which becomes the misunderstanding almost. And then they like break up and then reunite, which is a very interesting way to deal with that like plot sequence. So I didn't mind it. It was engaging and like, there's parts of it that are almost like Seinfeld-esque in like the way that particularly Billy Crystal acts with people and like his commentary on things.
Yeah.
His like short monologue about like death in like the first 5 minutes of the movie is pretty fantastic. And like, you know, there's just like some very good like like you said, it's relatable and it's very like grounded in
it's the dialogue. The dialogue's like really natural.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so the movie, so Rob Reiner directed it, I mentioned that earlier. He made this movie based on his experiences post-divorce and as a single man, and like he was super depressed and everything, but coincidentally and ironically, he met his current wife during the making of the movie, which is really funny. But like a lot of the dialogue, so Nora Ephron wrote the screenplay for this, and she's known for like You've Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle as well. To also, arguably, those three movies, including this one being the third, are very like kind of the top end romantic comedies and like the most famous ones, I'd argue. But she based a lot of the dialogue on the banter between Rob Reiner and Billy Crystal. And I love that. And his social commentary on everything and his relationships, a like his relationship advice. Pardon my dog in the background. His relationship advice and like he thinks he's this expert is just hilarious because all men think they're experts on everything, especially relationships.
Yeah. And
I think that's just like, it's funny because I feel like this movie's very relatable from a guy standpoint, listening to Billy Crystal, and then from a girl standpoint, Meg Ryan's point of view and how she acts with everything. But they're both super neurotic in their own ways, and they fit very well together, and I think that's what makes it a really good romantic comedy.
Yeah, I think the best part about his cockiness throughout the movie is in between each time jump, she'll bring up something that he said in the previous time jump, and he's like, I would never say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every single one.
Yeah.
That's probably the most relatable part of the movie is that like you don't remember any of the shit that you said to somebody before as a guy.
Yeah, walk the walk and talk the talk, man. We think we know exactly what we're doing, and sometimes we just wing it. That's what we do. We don't read directions. We don't do that. Men don't do that.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point that the movie definitely has this like dual bias, and you can watch it as a man or a woman and get like very different perspectives out of it while still being able to appreciate the narrative for what it is. I think that's probably why I actually like enjoyed watching this, is because there was some relatability and like he's got his goofy friend, you know, which is another great like element in the movie.
Yeah, everyone's got that.
Yeah, and like it's just it's really well done. Like I said, it kind of breaks the mold a little bit, but not so much that it's no longer a romantic comedy. You know, at the end of the day, you want to see everybody happy and in love and all that bullshit, you know, and then you know that's what you get with the movie. But yeah, I mean, overall, I liked it. I'm happy.
Good. I would say I'm shocked, but I'm kind of not. I mean, because it's just such a good movie, and I knew you'd like it. But like,
yeah,
I know you, and like you said, you don't like romantic comedies, and so the rest of the movies will be interesting because
the other ones I think are going to be a little rougher for me. But
have you seen the other ones?
No,
not to spoil it?
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh wow, okay. I've only seen two. I've only seen two of the four, so this will be interesting.
Kind of know what each one is like generally about.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And obviously there's like iconic scenes from all three of the next movies we're going to watch that I'm aware of. But yeah, like I don't really know much beyond that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well you're in for a ride.
I know.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's a good change of pace from all the action and stuff we've been doing. Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried that I was like, you know, with these romantic comedies, and we'll see how long this episode goes. It's like, you know, our last episode was an hour long, and you know, these romantic comedies are probably going to be about 30 minutes or so, and we'll see. I'll see if I, you know, bite my tongue, you know, and yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to talk about this movie, but there's a lot of cool stuff about it.
Yeah, I mean, in general, romantic comedies usually are, like I said, like they're formulaic.
Yeah,
they're there to get you to that happy place at the end. You know, there's usually not anything that's like incredibly groundbreaking. You know, in romantic comedies. Though, I mean, you know, I will continue to praise this movie because I think it is particularly well done.
Good.
From like nearly every perspective.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you have stuff that you want to cover, go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah. I was waiting for a good transition. I like the fact that, and this is a wild fact in my opinion. Meg Ryan was 27 when she made this movie. Billy Crystal was 40.
Oh, I was wondering how old he was, because I thought by the time he did City Slickers, he was fairly old. Not
Yeah, I mean,
like super old, but
it was
like
3 years
like
after
40
this, he did
something.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny how they make him look young. I mean, he's a short dude, and if he shaves his face, he looks pretty young. Like in the beginning, he looks pretty young. He doesn't really look college, level, but
no one ever does.
yeah, agreed. So I found that interesting, but like, and that how the hairstyles change, and I love Billy Crystal. I think he's a great actor. And I mean, I love Meg Ryan. She's awesome. She's classic. I like how, again, the realisticness of the dialogue in the movie is really good, because Nora Ephron, the writer, she uses a lot of like real life scenarios and stuff she's had happen in her life. And then, like I said, with Rob Reiner being, all his experiences post-divorce, he put a lot of the stuff, like his realistic situations, into this movie. It all just feels real and grounded. And like, for example, Sally being a picky eater, Meg Ryan's character, her crazy eating habits, which and this on the side, and then this, and that on the side, and I love that.
But if that doesn't have that, then go with this other thing.
Exactly. And so Rob Reiner actually got that from Nora Ephron, the writer, and she was ordering her food in the exact same way that Sally does in the movie. And when Reiner brought this up, Nora was like, "I just want it the way I want it." And so they put that exact line into the movie, which I love. Again, it's realistic dialogue. It's like, oh, that's genius. Like, that's perfect. And like, you can tell that Billy Crystal improvises a lot of his lines. Like when he's like, Pepper, the whole chicken, like that whole bit when they're in that like museum or whatever is hilarious. And you can tell it's just improvised, and it just feels real and natural. I don't know. It really lends to the credibility of the movie and why it's so good.
Like the movie doesn't feel written, but it's like
it's documentary style almost. Even with the talking heads at the begining, and the actors in it, it just makes it feel like a documentary almost.
Yeah, it feels like curated is like how I would describe it, rather than like written, because like there's lots of great jokes, there's lots of really good lines, but none of them feel like somebody sat down anguishing over like, oh my god, what's like the wittiest thing I can possibly come up with right here for this line. They're very like off the cuff things that like you would expect somebody to be able to come up with on the spot. Like it's not so witty that it's like, who the fuck talks like that? it's like witty enough where it's like, oh, like I get it. Like that's a good one,
Yeah. Like one of my favorite lines is, it's so subtle. It's Sheldon the Wonder Schlong. when Billy Crystal, Harry asks Meg Ryan, Sally about, what's the best sex you've ever had? It's like, Sheldon? Like, Sheldon. Like, who has good sex with a guy named Sheldon? Like, I love that. It's just so funny. And it just, I don't know. I'm curious on your take, and this is going to be a hot take. What do you think? Do you think men and women can be friends? That's a very tough question to answer, especially with both of our significant others that definitely listen to this.
It's an interesting question to think about. I think so. It's funny because we hear him make this argument at least twice in the movie.
Yeah.
And he completely flip-flops between both times. I would agree with his second argument that once you're in a like committed relationship, it's much easier to be friends with the opposite sex.
Interesting.
Because there's no longer any kind of like, especially when you're married, there's like no pressure at all of like dealing with anything else.
Yeah, I can understand that for the most part. I mean, obviously, I'm not married, but I think trust obviously is a big portion of all of that.
Yeah,
obviously, and we don't have to get too deep on this, but yeah, I mean, I think they can be friends to a very slim extent, and that's with boundaries and trust that has to be established. So that's my take on it.
But I do
not too
like
hot of
that,
a take.
Yeah, I actually like that as a character, Harry actually evolves throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And his opinions do change. And like, while it is kind of like a funny, like comedic element that he's like, I don't think I've ever said that, like, before. Like, it is like a realistic situation that as you get older, you change your opinions on things, especially wild takes when you're like 18.
Yeah. And when you've been through relationships and the ups and downs of that and life in general. Yeah, totally lends credibility to that.
Yeah.
I like that it's in a big city. I like that it's in New York, the setting wise, and it's like all the settings are really like, it's shot really well in my opinion, and it's like you have such almost iconic places that it shoots at.
But I the thing that I like is it has the New York City vibe, and it's captured very well, but it stays out of the New York kind of things. Like, it's got like very New York street scenes, but it's always like brownstones and stuff. And like the beautiful parks. But like they're never in like Times Square or some bullshit like that, It's just done very tastefully with the settings, and not like, oh, we're in New York, like, let's throw it in your fucking face. And
Agreed. It's cool because like Rob Reiner specifically wanted to choose these like particular locations to highlight the characters' lack of like insight, that they're blind to romance and kind of their surroundings, and blind to the love that's growing between them. And like Harry's apartment is so awesome with those huge windows, and you see the Empire State Building, which like you got to make a lot of money in New York to afford that, but like that whole apartment, it's such an interesting layout. And they describe, like, Rob Reiner describes it pretty well. It's like it could either be like the most like lovely place to live or the loneliest place to live in that view, depending on your outlook on the world and what's happening in your life. And it's, I don't know, it's very interesting, but it's subtle. It's very subtle in the movie, and I like that.
Well, like right after his divorce, you see a couple shots where it's just like empty except for like a chair. And then like as him and Sally like get closer and closer, like he starts actually furnishing it, and it starts to become more like homey, which is a cool like I don't know what that is, metaphor, something like that. Like,
what do you call that, a metaphor?
Whatever,
Yeah.
Metaphor is not quite the right word. I don't know what you like. It's I don't know, using the setting to convey the feelings of the characters in some sort of way. There's got to be a shorter word for that. But
I'm sure someone out there knows it, but we'll
yeah.
we'll move on.
But I mean, like the point you made that they're in all of these very picturesque kind of like snapshots, like particularly the iconic scene in the park in the fall when like everything is orange and like it's just gorgeous, and like they're completely oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting point, and kind of a cool device that Reiner uses, like you said, to kind of contrast like their relationship against what's like almost being like purposefully ignored by the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. I love the whole like Harry telling Sally she's high maintenance.
Yes.
I love that scene a lot, because everyone, even guys, if they're high maintenance, they never think they're high maintenance, which is hilarious. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get into a lot of like hot takes with this. I wonder if we're gonna get into some deep water with this stuff. We'll see. So let's move on to another hot take.
Yeah.
And it's the best part and arguably the most iconic part of the movie is the fake orgasm scene.
Mm-hmm.
I love that scene. They're in Katz's Deli. Have you ever been to New York, by the way?
Yeah, once.
Okay. Have you been to Katz's Deli?
Me and my I went with my buddy Brandon, who's also your buddy. And we walked past it. We didn't even know because we were going somewhere else. But yeah, we turned around and we were like, "Oh shit, that's Katz's Deli."
Yeah. So
it was not like time to eat when we were there. So
it's
like,
also crazy
right.
busy all the time. Katz's Deli. Like I went recently with my girlfriend and visited my friend and his wife in New York, and we went there and I ate the food and it was great. And I totally forgot to look for the table because there's a sign. Actually, no, I think I saw it because there's a pretty big sign that's like, "When Harry Met Sally," like this is the table, and it points right to it, where that famous scene is. That I love that scene. It's the obliviousness of men. I think it really depicts that well, and just I think it's, and how like women manipulate men. That sounds horrible when I say it like that. I like we're gonna edit that out for sure.
That's the clip for the episode.
How women like know how to like they know how to outsmart us with certain scenarios. That's what I mean. Not manipulate. Manipulate's a poor word, and we probably don't have to edit that. But like,
not in a negative
outsmart
way.
us because we're so sex is on the brain with men a lot, and it's women know that, and they have the brain power over us to do that. I think. Again, hot take, I'm sure, but that's. Yeah. So, I love the line where, she finishes her fake orgasm and says, "I'll have what she's having." And that's actually Rob Reiner's mom that says it, which is hilarious.
That's funny.
And Billy Crystal actually suggested the line, "Oh, I'll have what she's having," which is genius. It's such a genius way to do it.
And an iconic line.
Oh, absolutely. The whole scene is iconic.
Copied all over the place.
Yeah.
In other stuff. So
yeah, it's very famous. It was Meg Ryan's idea for the whole faking the orgasm scene, and the idea of putting it in a restaurant in public, which is hilarious. I don't think that scene's that realistic, but the reactions are realistic. Like the people all
Yeah.
like stopping and looking and being like, "What the heck? Like, what is this lady doing?" I think, yeah, it's very comical, and it's definitely the most iconic scene of the movie.
Yeah. I will say, watching that scene, I was like, this is not in Sally's like character, although it is like funny. But I think it does show how like comfortable that they like grow together. And like, because it is very uncharacteristic of her, I think it does show like that trust level that you were just talking about has like definitely established between them. And like, you know, even though she's doing this wild thing in public, like, you know, it's really about them being like semi intimate in this like little booth together or whatever.
Yeah. Then you get to the New Year's party. There's multiple. And that's when they realize they start liking each other and they have their kind of like first kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go on that double date, which I love that double date scene.
Yeah.
And Jess, who's played by Bruno Kirby, who's great. He's also in City Slickers. And he unfortunately died when he was 57 of cancer, which is sad. And then you've got Carrie Fisher, obviously, who's awesome. And it's Marie, right? Her name's Marie, I'm pretty sure.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and she's great in this. They're all great. All the supporting characters are great, and there's not too many supporting characters in this movie. You know, it's just very simplified. Mm-hmm. It's just the main friends, and I like how they're trying to set each other up with their friends, and then they don't. You know, Marie and Jess like each other. I love that, how that happens. And then fast forward a little bit, they, finally Meg Ryan, Sally has feelings about, how her ex-flame Joe is getting married, and she's crying, and then Harry goes over and comforts her, and then they have sex, which is super spoiled in the movie trailer. I can't believe they did that, because, like, I feel like that's such an important, like, turning point in the movie, and it's so late in the movie.
Yeah.
And they show it in the trailer. I was like, what? I don't know.
That's probably the most important point in the movie, and something that's not expected. Which, going back to the flow of the plot, that is a very I feel like that's a very uncommon point in a romantic comedy plot for the two characters to get together, because it's right before, it causes the split, basically. Which typically, like in most romantic comedies, they're either like together well before that, or they don't get together at all until after the like split up, misunderstanding problem, or whatever.
Yeah, it avoids the cliches for sure, and the tropes.
Right. Yeah. So that's I think it is like the anchor of the movie, and like, it's like the climax of the movie. It's like the most important part, and they totally blew it in the trailer.
Yeah, climax of the movie.
And one of the funniest like jokes in the movie is because she's like rubbing her face on him. She's like the happiest you see her in the entire movie, and he's just like,
terrified. I'm gonna get something to drink. Do you want something? Okay. Yeah, I love that. And then they have that 3-way call, which is awesome, and the way they shot it is awesome. And they had to do that about 60 times to get that right, because it's all one take if you watch it carefully. There's no way to do that. They had 3 different sets, and they couldn't make any cuts. They couldn't, no one had to make a mistake. They all had to hang up the phones perfectly, and so, if someone messed up one thing, they had to start all over again. So, pretty crazy. But also, in my opinion, another iconic scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, obviously they kind of start drifting apart because of having sex and stuff. And then I love Harry's kind of realization when it's New Year's again, and he's walking down walking in New York City, just kind of lonely, and he realizes it, and he runs to her on New Year's, and then he gives this great speech, where he says, "I love all these things about you, and the little crinkle above your eye, your nose that you do when you get mad," and it's just such a good speech, and then it cuts to them as the couple, Talking Heads documentary style, telling their story, and they're married and everything like that. And apparently that final interview of them talking was completely improvised, which is awesome. Again, just very realistic. And all those stories of all those couples were 100% true. And they were the real couples, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny because in the first draft of the film, originally written, Harry and Sally did not end up together. And obviously they're like, well, they have to get together. It's a romantic comedy. It's got to be a happy ending. And they belong together because they're both super neurotic. And then, it works really well. So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie, and hopefully there's not too many hot takes in it. Hopefully we don't get in trouble or. But it's a fun movie to dissect in that regard too. But I like it. I'll watch it for the rest of my life multiple times. The rewatch value on it's very big.
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe once a year for me.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll
be forced to, so I'm.
Yeah, we popped your cherry, so to speak.
Yeah.
On When Harry Met Sally, and now your wife's going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should leave it at that. That's just you popping, getting your cherry popped. Should leave it at that.
Getting my When Harry Met Sally cherry pop. Yeah.
your Harry Sally cherry.
Harry Sally cherry.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. And significant others don't hate us. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.